shortest song on record, isn't it? I'm never quite ready for it to be over. Anyway, thanks. Good morning. Glad you're all here with us on this first Sunday of Advent. Now, Advent isn't a word probably we use in our common everyday language. It's a church talk kind of thing. And Advent is the season that the church designates as the 4 Sundays preceding Christmas Day. And it's seen, and the whole of Advent is seen as a time to prepare for and in anticipation of the birth of Jesus, which of course we say occurs on December 25th. Now, as an aside, you know that we have no idea exactly when Jesus was born at all. All we really know is that he was born and that his mother was Mary. We have those stories that you find in Matthew's Gospel and Luke's Gospel that are different from one another, that are sort of elaborate kind of versions of the story to try to emphasize later, years after Jesus, to try to emphasize how special he was. But they're not considered to be factual or historical and probably shouldn't be taken that way. But I digress. Advent, one of the things that the church has used to mark Advent is an Advent calendar. And that's a calendar that actually didn't come into being until the mid-1800s. And it was put together originally by the German Lutherans. Now, there's a modern day version of it that doesn't actually begin always, because Advent can begin about any time. It doesn't always happen to coincide with December 1st. And but that the church part really begins on the beginning of Advent. But the modern version always begins on December 1st, which just happens to be today, which happens to be the first day of Advent. And then the calendars have 24 days marked to try to mark the time before the birth of Jesus. And the way they were originally created and the way you sometimes see them is like 2 pieces of cardstock, one on top of another. And then there are doors cut on the top piece of cardstock. And each door has a number of 1 to 24, and that you open a door on each day as we move toward closer to Christmas. And because they're primarily geared for children, they have things to try to keep kids focused on the real meaning of Christmas, what really counts as Christmas. So you'll see symbols of Christmas like holly or a wreath or a bell or a sleigh. Or you might see symbols from the nativity, like a manger, or maybe it would be a star or an angel or something of that order. Now, it's a really simple way to think about that fact that Christmas is coming and how we might prepare for that. You may have noticed that you should have on your tables a garden version of the Christmas Advent calendar, and I would invite you to take that with you. And there's simple things there that we can do between now and Christmas to observe it and to really kind of keep us focused on the simplicity of Christmas, on what really counts there, what the real reason that we gather for the season here. So take those with you and prepare to mark our way toward Christmas Day itself. Now, I was really somewhat stumped when I tried to find a Bible passage to use to talk about simplifying Christmas, because I really couldn't find anything. So it's a bit of a stretch, but I'm using a passage that came out of Matthew's Gospel, where the writer has Jesus saying this: "If you decide for God, living a life of God worship, it follows that you don't fuss about what's on the table at mealtimes or whether the clothes in your closet are in fashion. There is far more to your life than the food you put in your stomach, more to your outer appearance than the clothes you hang on your body." Now, if we try to boil this down, I think what Jesus is trying to say is that we put a lot of worry and concern and fretting about things that really don't matter all that much. He's encouraging us not to sweat the small stuff. We get all this extraneous, superfluous kinds of things and put our time and energy on those and miss the real heart of the matter, what really matters, what really counts. Well, I think we could stretch this a little bit more to say that it applies probably particularly during the Christmas season. I suspect here we are, just 3.5 weeks from Christmas Day, and I suspect many of us are really in the throes of all the stuff that we have to do for Christmas, and maybe we have our lists all made out, the gifts to buy and the shopping to do and the gifts to wrap and the house to decorate and the food to prepare and the meals to plan and the parties to attend, and the list goes on and on and on. And it can become really inundating and sometimes totally overwhelming. And it can rob us of the real meaning and the joy that actually comes from the season. Now, today we're talking about trying to simplify that a little bit, and frankly, it's something I've tried to do a little bit over the years. For example, I don't send Christmas cards. I haven't for years, and I don't bake cookies. Of course, I don't bake anything, so that's probably not a big loss for anybody, frankly. But I don't bake cookies or anything like that, and so yet even not doing things like that, I still sometimes get bogged down in the whole thing. And, there's a downside to some of that we have to consider because I don't send cards, it's been pretty easy sometimes to lose touch with people. Even family members or friends or college friends or former neighbors or people who moved away. Sometimes if we don't do that, then we don't stay in touch with people. And sometimes if we don't have people in or we don't go to some of those gatherings, then we don't get to see some of the folks who are really important to us and who really matter. And we miss out on some of the significant parts of the holiday itself. Now, if we think about simplifying it, some of us may be a little bit afraid of what kind of reaction we're going to get from family or friends if we suggest something. Say, for instance, that we suggest that maybe we change our traditions at Christmas, maybe Christmas Eve dinner or Christmas dinner. Let's do something different, something a little easier, something not quite so complicated. Will people think we're trying to spoil the whole holiday by ruining all the things that we've always done this way? Or what if we suggest that we're only going to buy one gift per person and we're going to limit the number of gifts we're going to give our children? What if we do that? We sometimes worry a lot about how people are going to respond to that. And yet, it might be one of the ways that we could actually begin to think about simplifying Christmas. Now, I have to admit that in our Western culture, this isn't an easy thing to think about because the emphasis is on more and more and more and not less and less. And it's on buying and shopping. I couldn't believe that all the promo for Christmas was out long before Halloween had even happened. And then there were these stores that were open on Thanksgiving Day, and apparently people went shopping and actually went there. And it was this onslaught of consumerism that I have to admit, might be good for the economy, but it kind of bothers me because it detracts from the real essence, the real meaning, the real value of Christmas. Well, what about if we're really serious about wanting to make some changes? How might we go about doing that? Where might we start? Well, I guess one of my suggestions would be not to be radical about the whole thing because then we'll get a knee-jerk reaction and it'll kind of kill the whole idea. But to make some of the small changes and maybe things that won't be noticed, at least initially. Say, for example, we're one of those people who always likes to decorate and put all the lights outside the house. Well, what if we don't put up all the lights? We put up just part of them. Or maybe what if we decide not to put up any of them at all this year? Or what about the decorations that we typically put out in our house? What would it be like if we only pulled out 1 or 2 boxes and put those out this year and let the others stay dormant for a while and rest a little bit and then maybe bring them out the next time and do a little exchange mission there? Now, this is something I am really serious about this year, that I am actually doing it. I do have some things, though, that I will always put out. I've mentioned this to you before, I have a collection of nativities. And they all have some special meaning to me or to us, and so I always put all of the nativities out. And they have their traditional spots where they have gone and where they will go again. But I also have a collection, and too many to count. I've tried once, but I hate to tell you, but I have this whole collection of Santa Clauses. And sometimes it just looks messy and cluttered because I put them all out, and you can't really focus on any one of them. And so I'm not going to put all those Santa Clauses out this year. I'm going to just choose certain ones, maybe some of the favorites or some that our granddaughter happens to like a lot, and I'll put those out. But some of the others I'm not going to put out this year. Now, that's one thing we can do. And one thing that will help is after Christmas, because it will simplify all the packing away and taking down and all the things that happen. So it might make both the beginning and the end of the whole process just a little simpler and a little more enjoyable as well. Well, what's another way that we might simplify Christmas? How could we simplify our shopping, for example? Because we probably all do it to one degree or another. Now, this is easy for me to say because I am not a shopper any time of the year, and so I don't enjoy fighting for a parking space, sitting in line in traffic, trying to get to a mall, elbowing my way in to try to find something that I never find anyway, and then standing in line to try to pay for it. I just don't like it. I know some people really get a charge out of doing that, but I'm not one of them. What I love doing is online shopping. It is absolutely wonderful. You can do it at any hour of the day or night in your jammies, totally comfortable, and it's just absolutely great. And if you go on thegardenonline.org and click on the Amazon little note thing there, the garden gets some good out of it too, and it doesn't cost us anything more. And the thing I like about it is that then we don't have to go drive somewhere to pick things up. It's delivered to us. It comes right to our door and right when we need it. So, that's something else that maybe we can do to think about simplifying the hustle and bustle of Christmas. Now, something that probably is a good time to start right now is to pull out our calendars and see what's on it. Put the most important things on first. What are our kids and grandkids about, and what things do we want to be sure that we're a part of, that we participate in? What are the things, the events that we are going to host or the ones we're going to attend? Or what are the any special kinds of items that need to go on those calendars? Make sure we have those on the calendar. But we also need to make sure that we have some spaces on that calendar. So if it looks as though it's going to be full already, maybe we better say, no, I'm really sorry, I can't do that this year. Or no, that's not something that's going to happen this year. And instead, leave some spaces for us, some time for us to catch our breath and really remember what the season is all about. Remember what really matters, what really counts here. I guess what I'm suggesting is that maybe we need to give ourselves a break this year, that lighten up a little bit. It probably won't be the end of the world if we don't get something on our to-do list done, or it probably won't ruin everything if we decide to mark something off completely and not even consider doing it. It's probably going to be okay if we don't fix all the foodstuffs that we always have. Maybe we won't add as many pounds as we might otherwise add. And it'll probably be okay if we set aside a time-honored tradition this year. It's probably okay. It can rest for a while, and maybe we can bring it back later. Or perhaps we'll decide after we've let it go this year that it's okay. It had its time, it had its season, but that's past. And now it can be in permanent retirement. I'm also aware that there are some, and it's every year, there are some for whom this holiday is different because a loved one is no longer here present with us. And so it's important to rethink those traditions and to decide, according to what our heart tells us, is the right thing to do. How should we observe? What should we keep? What should we let go of? But only those folks who are in that situation can make those decisions. There's no right or wrong. It's just simply a matter of figuring it out for ourselves. The reality is, if we simplify things a little bit, it may, in fact, give us what we need for Christmas. We may find that our spirits are lifted and our souls are softened and healed as a result of giving ourselves a break. And maybe we'll experience the love and joy and hope and peace that are the real gifts of Christmas.